Hello, and welcome to The Path. In today's video, we'll be going over a starting adventure that you can run tonight. This adventure is called The Merchant's Cards. In it, the players will have to investigate the site where the cart was stolen from. Then, they'll have to survive an ambush by the goblins on a broken bridge. And then finally, they'll have a confrontation with the goblins' leader. The adventure is meant for 4 players of first level. Linked below are PDFs made in Dungeon Scrawl. These have everything you need to know to run the encounters. They are all 1 page each, so they make a useful reference while you're at the table and running the game. So it's really quick to look over and see DCs that you may have forgotten while everything is going crazy at the table. Also, I found on Reddit a great monster sheet and initiative tracker. I filled them out for the 2 combat encounters, and they have things like AC, health points, and they have it all laid out clearly so that you can see them while you're in the middle of battle. With all of those things out of the way, let's jump into the first encounter. You see 2 figures on the dirt road ahead. As you get closer, you notice they are unmoving and still. 2 bodies lie on the ground. They have blood-stained clothes and are covered in a thin layer of dust. A crow picks at the boot of one of the men. Around them, you see many scattered footprints of different sizes. Further down the road, there are a pair of shallow grooves in the dirt. These, and the footprints, continue down the path. How you get the players at this roadside investigation is up to you. You can have them start in a tavern and have them introduce themselves, and after about 15 or 20 minutes, have a merchant burst into the tavern and announce that he needs help finding his stolen cart and offer them 100 gold. And after they accept, because why not, they're playing Dungeons and Dragons and want to go on an adventure, you can quick cut to this scenario when they come across these bodies on the road. Alternatively, you could just have them start directly on the road and forego any sort of intro and just start them at the beginning of the adventure. For players investigating the bodies, you will ask them for an investigation check. This is to determine whether or not they recognize the wounds on their bodies and to see if they can find anything of value on them. Players that succeed on their investigation checks will recognize the wounds on the bodies as coming from weapons as opposed to animal teeth or claws. Also, they will find that all these bodies have been looted and they won't find anything worth the value, except for on the boot that the crow was picking at. They will find a strange gold coin, a form of currency that they are not familiar with. At the end of the video, I will be talking about how to hook in players using little clues and hints like this. For players that are inspecting the footprints, you will ask them for a survival check. Depending on the results of their check, they will learn 3 different pieces of information. The lowest level, they will recognize the footprints as humanoid versus animal prints. The second level, they will see that a set of prints that are belonging to the merchant's cart are leading into the forest to the north. And for the last piece of information, the highest, they will recognize the prints as goblin, and that they were around 10 or 12 in total. Players that follow the tracks into the woods will come to a 3rd body, that of a woman who is leaning against a tree, her hands holding a unopened vial of a healing potion. They will notice an arrow that is stuck into her chest, and the arrow will be goblinoid, thus leading to the players of knowing who their enemy is. Also, they will find a wedding ring on the woman worth 5 gold pieces. For investigating the grooves, there's no role associated with having to follow them. It will be very clear to the players, and this is so they can easily make it to the next stage of the adventure. After the players finish their investigation, lead them down the dirt road through the forest for about an hour. This will bring them to the second encounter, the broken bridge. The dirt of the road gives way to a stone bridge. It hangs over a long cavern, 200 feet deep. Time has decayed its structure, and parts have fallen into the waters below. In the middle, only a narrow strip of stone, 10 feet wide, connects both sides. The goal of this encounter is to have the bridge fall from beneath the feet of the party, splitting them on either side of the bridge. Then, immediately have the goblins attack as they are split. This encounter will have 3 goblins for a party of 4, so 1 less than the number of party members. And although the players will outnumber the goblins, it should still be a difficult encounter as the goblins will more than likely have a surprise round, and also, depending on their dexterity saves for the bridge, the players might be out of commission for a turn or 2. The goblins hiding behind the trees in the forest will be lightly obscured. This will make it harder for them to see, and the players will have disadvantage on any perception checks. The goblin across the way in the rock will not be lightly obscured, and there will be just a straight perception check to see them. With the goblins' high stealth scores, and some of them being lightly obscured, it's highly likely that the players will not notice them on any perception checks they do make. Also, the players might just plunge ahead without any perception checks. The party will either cross one at a time or all together. If they go one at a time, the first person to cross will cross with no issue, but the second person to cross, that's when the bridge will collapse on them. For a party that crosses the bridge all at once, ask for a marching order, and for the first 3 members that are in the middle of the bridge, that is when it will collapse from underneath them. For any party members that are in the middle of the bridge as it collapses, that middle 15 feet portion, ask them for a dexterity save. They will be able to jump safely to one side or the other if they succeed. Party members that fail their dexterity save, describe to them as their character falls 200 feet and splats on the ground. Just kidding. That might have been how it was done in earlier editions, this kind of save or die mechanics, but I think nowadays people more like more of a chance than that. So describe to them as their character starts to fall, but they at the last minute grabs onto the ledge and they are hanging precariously over this great fall. At this moment, with some players hopefully hanging over their doom and others safely on one side or the other, this is when you have the goblins attack. Any character that is hanging can only use their action to pull themselves up with an athletics check. This is because their hands are preoccupied with making sure they don't fall to their death. Also, an ally that is within 5 feet of them can automatically, without a check, pull them up. This is because they are stronger through the power of friendship, and it also incentivizes teamwork. To cross the 15-foot gap of the bridge after it has collapsed, players will need to make a long jump. Their long jump distance is equal to their strength score with a 10-foot running start. If they have less than the 15 strength score needed, you would ask them for an athletics check, the DC equaling 10 plus the difference of the score they need, 15, and whatever score they have. So, say if they had a score of 12, the difference will be 3, and their total athletics check DC will be 13. When the ambush starts, the goblins will hide behind the trees and make ranged attacks with their short bows. Creatures in the forest will have half cover. This means they get +2 to AC and +2 to dexterity saving throws. And during the combat, the goblins will attempt to stay away from melee combat, and any players that go into the forest will also receive the benefits of half cover. As soon as 1 or 2 of the goblins are killed, the rest of them will attempt to flee. If the players are able to capture any of the goblins, they will immediately tell them any information they have in exchange for their life. This will include the traps of the next encounter, the powers of the shaman, and how many there are. Once all combatants are defeated and any hostages are interrogated, the players will continue along the path and make their way through a forest until they come to our last encounter. You come to a small clearing in the woods. In its center, you see a 2-story building. The lodge is made out of solid logs and has an angled slate roof. From your position at the edge of the clearing, you see the path leads to a set of double doors. Above and to the left of those doors, a small green goblin perched on a balcony. Their eyes scan the surrounding area, and on the ground, a second goblin circles the building. In this encounter, the players will have to deal with being outnumbered, having trapdoors in their way, and facing a deadly foe in the Goblin Shaman. See the number 1 here and over here will represent the goblin on the balcony and the patrol goblin. The patrol goblin will circle the building in a counterclockwise fashion, and each loop will be 1 minute. The goblin on the balcony will be able to see everything south of the building, and both will have a passive perception of 9. The 2s represent rocks and trees that the players can hide behind. Aside from these, in 150 feet surrounding the building, it's all grassland. The rooms labeled 3 and 4 over here represent the meat room and the tool shed. Both of their outside doors are locked and require a sleight of hand check. Behind both of these outside doors is a tripwire. Any players that do not disarm this trap and trip over it will activate a dart that will shoot into them, dealing 1d6 damage. Make sure to foreshadow this trap by describing the blood that is underneath both of the doors. The inside doors of both rooms 3 and 4 are unlocked but closed. If the party wishes to proceed without being seen by the enemies on the table at number 5, they will have to stealth. Number 5 represents a gambling table. Here, the Goblin Shaman and 1 to 3 goblins will be playing dice games for 2d10 gold coins and a wedding ring worth 5 gold coins. The wedding ring will match the one found on the woman in the woods at the beginning of the adventure. Number 6 represents the stairs that lead up to the balcony. Also, they represent the boxes in the middle of the room. These boxes are 5 by 5 feet, and they are stacked 2 on top of each other. The players can either push them over or knock an enemy into them, dealing 1d6 bludgeoning damage. Finally, we come to number 7, the cart that the players have been searching for this whole time. It is 10 feet long and 5 feet wide. It carries about 100 pounds of trade goods worth 200 gold. It is being pulled by a frightened and scared donkey. The players will have to do an animal handling check to get this donkey to move again. If a fight breaks out, there will be around 4 normal goblins and 1 goblin shaman. The goblin shaman will have higher than usual wisdom and charisma. Also, it will have much higher hit points with 21. Also, it will have 2 spells. As an action, Chromatic Orb, and as a bonus action, Healing Ward. Chromatic Orb will do a lot of damage for an enemy of this level, and Healing Ward is always powerful. I've also given it 4 spell slots, with the idea being that it will be very effective at the beginning 2 to 3 rounds, and then falling off towards the later rounds, only having a staff to make attacks with. Other goblins will retreat if they see the goblin shaman has been taken down. Let the players be creative with how they solve this problem. They might want to lure the goblins out with a distraction on some different part of the clearing and come back in stealing the cart while they are away. Or they might set the entire building on fire, leading to the goblins coming out that way. Anything they think of, try to find a way to make it work, because that's the fun of Dungeons & Dragons, when they come up with a crazy idea that you didn't think of and turns out all right for them, or turns out poorly and you all get to laugh about it. If you plan on using this as a starting adventure in a campaign, you might want to think about placing some hooks and clues that would lead to the next adventure. Maybe the merchant's cart was carrying a mysterious artifact, which was sealed in a box but now has been cracked open, light spilling from it. Maybe the player carrying the strange coin from the roadside investigation opens his pouch and finds that the coin glows the same light and is vibrating. Maybe they hear from the box a slight whisper and is drawn to it. It's really up to you, the type of hook that you want to tease the players with. Or you can just simply play this as a one-shot where they defeat the Goblin Shaman, return to the merchant and get the reward, and ride off into the sunset. I hope you enjoyed this adventure, and if anything was confusing, please leave a comment down below. Thank you for watching.